I'm almost there for Pete's sake. This is literally the easiest one they've ever released too. Why does being a successor have to be so difficult?
Successor? What the fuck are you talking about?
Huh? No, you did not hear any of that.
And what's with the f***ing toy? You've been playing with that thing for 30 damn minutes.
No, you've been misinformed, my dear roommate. This is not a toy. This right here is an endurance test unlike any other. This tool was smithed by Mr. Mad Scientist Dan Klitzner to push the human brain and reflexes to their upper limits. Anyone who dares disrespect this thing by calling it a mere toy, have you no computational problem solving?
Okay. Unnecessary. Impressive. Maybe you'll impress your first-year writing professor with that whole monologuing skill.
Oh, well, I don't have that class.
Exactly.
What the? Hey! Salutations, Homo sapiens. Some of you may remember a time period when our youthful peers used to entertain themselves not with the use of a screen, but instead with physical, tactile gadgets. Somehow it feels like those days were some 30-odd years ago, when in reality, the usage of toys only started slowing down by the mid to late 2010s. For a long time, this was seen as one of the most prevalent places to throw in ideas and develop patents for what could very well be the favorite object of children around the world. And you'd have all of the kids begging their parents to toss their money down the drain just to get a hold of the trinket that they see little Larry carrying from across the street. And little Mike. And little Cassie. And little Derek. And little... You may recognize the name Hasbro from a mile away. Today, it's the second largest toy company in the entire world, only upstaged by the one and only LEGO. Yes, I said one and only LEGO. You know exactly who you are, ripoff brands. Hasbro was founded by the Hassenfeld brothers, hence the name of the company, on December 6, 1923, in America's smallest state, Rhode Island. Today, it's known for IPs such as My Little Pony, Transformers, Power Rangers, and plenty of others which would go on to shape the childhoods of many across various generations. But today, we're focusing on the product that I was utilizing just a moment ago, Bop It. Bop It! Bop It! Bop It! Yes, we get it, the thing is called Bop It. Bop It! Bop It! Okay! Bop It! Okay! Of course, we must introduce the man who was responsible for bringing us the Bop It as we know it today, Dan Klitzner. This good sir has had a hand in creating various other mental challenges as well, such as being involved in the invention of the Perplexus, which I, of course, also own. In 1996, after originally getting the idea from a TV remote project called the Channel Bopper, Klitzner patented and licensed to Hasbro what we now know as the very first Bop It. The inaugural version sported a design that screams 1990s and is oddly shaped like something you could probably beat someone to death with. Not that I would, of course. It's powered by 3 AA batteries and there are only 3 actions here: Bop It, Twist It, and Pull It, which do exactly as you would imagine. The game tells you to do one and you obey its instruction. All things considered, this is a pretty basic concept that anyone with 5 brain cells should be able to comprehend, and yet it still manages to be rather difficult. Why are you yelling at me, man? You were going too fast. The challenge comes not from the game itself, but from your ability to keep up with it. The tempo speeds up the further along you go, and as a result, you'll likely either make the wrong move out of reflex, or miss the time window entirely. Once you've been at it for a while, you naturally end up becoming more fatigued, making the chance of error even more prevalent. And getting to 100 on the original model, or 200 on the 2000 reissue, can suddenly become a rather daunting task. It's the simple principles of timing and endurance which allow for such a basic game to turn into something that manages to frustrate so many. So, once you've released this thing and it becomes a huge success, what's the next step? Make an even harder version, obviously. Gotta love torture devices, don't we all? 1998 saw the patent and release of the Bop It Extreme. And, I mean, look at this thing. This must be the most complicated and most evil steering wheel ever to be machined. The game functions exactly as the original does, but with the addition of Spin It and Flick It to the official Bopjects canon. Yes, the actions are officially known as Bopjects. Ah, I see what you did there. You know what you did! Spin It is red on this model, making it only one of 2 times that they chose this color, the other being Bop It Download. Every other model with the Spin It uses orange instead, even though the red one looks objectively better. Anyway, this is the first Bop It for a few things. The first to save your high score, the first to vocalize the game modes rather than using sound effects,
Beat Bop, Solo, Box Bop, Beat Bop, Box Bop, Solo.
and of course, the first to have the game mock you for messing up.
Hey, you win! Not.
Wow, that was really unnecessary. This feature would go on to become what is arguably the most iconic part of Bop It today, because everyone loves holes nowadays, figuratively and literally. The winning condition was also increased from 100 all the way up to 250, really putting emphasis on the extreme in the title, with a new distinction between the regular base level Bop It and the more advanced extreme Bop It now in play. The framework for the lineup as we know it today has been set. The original series would continue using both designs as the baseline for newer models, so not much change for the next 8 years. There were some slightly weird versions, such as Bratz Bop It in 2004, which was a re-release of the original Bop It themed after the then popular Bratz dolls introduced in 2001. Please don't yell at me like that. And 2005's Bop It Blast, which was another regular Bop It that could do this for some reason, probably to accommodate the one-on-one mode if I were to guess. There were also miniature versions of some of these, including ones with a pen as the pull-it handle.
It's got multiple functions.
Yes, Junt, it does indeed have multiple functions. The game modes on the original series were generally consistent. The original Bop It had 3 to choose from: Vox Bop, Beat Bop, and Solo Bop. The first 2 were multiplayer games, where when the voice tells you to pass it, alongside the iconic Jingle, the game goes to the next player, and everyone continues in an elimination round until one player remains. Vox Bop involves the voice saying the commands, while Beat Bop would play sound effects that correlate to the sound that each action makes upon execution, which I think is a really creative idea. The third mode, Solo Bop, was simply a one-player version of Vox Bop. Bop It Extreme introduced a solo version of Beat Bop, and Extreme 2 from 2002, that is a lot of 2s, brought along one-on-one mode, where 2 players would grab either arm of the game and take control of the 2 Bopjects on said arm, with the Bop It button being the score counter. Whoever hits it first earns a point. The game would end when either someone makes a mistake and the other player wins, or one of the player earns 5 points from hitting Bop It first. These game modes were the primary ones for all of the Bop Its released before 2008, with minor variations also coming along, such as Light Bop, where you can only execute an action when the correct Bopject is lit up. Otherwise, it's actually a mistake. The winning condition would also vary depending on the model, with Bop It Download, the final one in the original lineup from 2006, having a final score of, get this, 1,000, with a total of 15 difficulty levels, and level 15 lasting for 500 points. This thing is a f***ing marathon. And yes, that is indeed what the Twist It looks like on Bop It Download. Weird. So, there you all have it. A summary of the first decade of the existence of the Bop It. In total, 6 different variations were produced that were unique, as well as various other reissues, miniatures, and so on. A lot of the really old models could be considered vintage nowadays, and I'm sure that there are more than a few kids who would love to pick up a version of the 1996 original Bop It, all for the sake of nostalgia, even knowing damn well they have never used one of these before. P.S. Retrofuturism is stupid. Huh, maybe that'll be a video down the line. 2008 marked what was practically a new beginning for the Bop It franchise. The instructions for a brand new model, the first one in 2 years, were copyrighted, and this model hit the market the following year after its grand unveiling in the 2009 New York Toy Fair. Hey, I've been to New York before. This one is just called Bop It, like the original, albeit with the addition of an exclamation point. So I guess instead of Bop It, now it's BOP IT! Hey, don't blame me for following the rules of punctuation. All future models have the exclamation point too, so I see this change as a symbol that this model is not just the next one after download, it's a reboot of the franchise as a whole. The change in logo also supports this idea. The Bopjects here include the classic 3, plus a new one, Shout It. The player is expected to speak into the built-in microphone by the green box to activate this.
Shout it!
Hey! It'll register with any feedback though, so feel free to blow it instead in case you're in a sensitive environment. What? Did I say something offensive? Oh, come on people, you're better than that. This Bopject has retroactively given this model the name of Bop It Shout, to avoid confusion with the 1996 original, though its official name is, again, Bop It! Not only did the general branding and design change, with this particular shape becoming especially iconic, but the overall gameplay saw significant updates as well. Instead of splitting Vox Bop and Beat Bop apart, this version of the game is split into difficulty, sort of like how Bop It Download had 15 levels. Novice uses voice commands only. Expert uses the sound effects from Beat Bop in combination, and Master uses color commands along with the other two. Each ends at 100 points, then the next one starts. Beating Master means that the entire game has been finished, accompanied by a little remix.
You beat Bop It.
The game modes have also been updated. There's Solo, the normal game with the point system, Pass It, which functions the same as it always has,
Pass it.
and now Party, which is the same as Pass It, but the Bop It command is replaced with a body part such as hip, shoulder, arm, and so on. The player is expected to hit the button using said body part, but the game obviously has no idea what it was hit by, so I always found this mode a bit unnecessary. Has anyone actually used Party mode in the manner that it was intended to? Let me know if you have. Also, they finally added an indicator for when the game powered off, something that was desperately needed for the longest time. The voice announces that,
I'm going to sleep.
which is something that has mostly stuck around since. The last important thing to come from this rebrand was the introduction of the second most important Sir to Bop It, only behind Mr. Klitzner himself, Buddy Rubino. Every single model up to this point has had a different voice actor play the role each time.
Bop it. Bop it. Bop it. Bop it. Bop it. Bop it.
But at long last, Hasbro seemed to settle on one person. His one and only instruction was to sound really excited, and he not only accomplished that goal, but also became by far the most recognizable voice of the game to date. He did skip out on Bop It Bounce and Bop It Beats, as well as all of the character Bop Its, but he's consistently been the voice elsewhere since his 2009 debut. Overall, a really nice refresh to the series, as I recall this model being the most successful of all time. Speaking of Bop It Bounce, it sucks. How do you follow up on bringing your masterfully crafted brain teaser back on the market and in greater numbers than ever? You throw everything out of the window and make something that's a waste of batteries. It's pretty simple. You have a bounce pad, and a red ball. There are 6 different game modes, and you bounce the ball in certain ways according to the mode. The problem is that because the pad is flat, the ball almost never bounces the way it's supposed to. Good thing you can just cheat. I'm a little baffled by the concept of this one, and it definitely didn't win over the masses either. In other words, this thing is useless. The next one after this brought the extreme style into the modern age.
Come on, Bop It. XT. Come on, Bop It. XT.
That really does evoke memories. It happened to be the first version that I acquired myself. It takes the classic increased stakes from the other extreme models and implements the format changes from the aforementioned Bop It Shout. One-on-one makes its return, and Shake It gets added.
Excuse me, why are you turning your back towards me, dear Homo sapiens? Didn't your parents teach you that it's rude to, you know... No, I'm not asking you to... Just forget it.
I personally say that XT was sort of the final time that Hasbro would just go on and release a standard new Bop It without it either involving strange gimmicks or being a re-release. The next 3, Bop It Smash, Tetris, and Beats, look at these things. They each have radically different playstyles that are almost as out of left field as the disaster that was Bop It Bounce. Unlike that one though, each of these at least has captivating gameplay. Beats is my favorite of the 3, which may be due to how it's by far the closest in gameplay to the status quo. 2015 saw the beginning of the Bop It Micro series, which started off with just a miniature version of the typical game, before turning into special character-themed models of various franchises. If you were to call Bop It a toy based on these, I guess I can't fault you too much. As of late 2024, a grand total of 12 characters have been Bopified, and here are all of them. These are the only models which I haven't made an effort to collect yet, but I am working on acquiring them someday. The last few years have sadly been pretty lackluster for the franchise though. An attempted second rebrand in 2016 only saw 2 models, both of which being gimmick-based, and since then, nothing. Just 2 more re-releases and the character models. Klitzner himself stepped in to make a special version independent from Hasbro, the Bop It button, in 2022. You'd think that it would be incredibly boring from the surface, but from experience, it's actually pretty awesome, and it's filled with references to past models, which is fitting since this is meant to be an anniversary celebration. There were also a few software versions of Bop It, including a version for Family Game Night, as well as mobile apps for both regular Bop It and Bop It Smash. The normal Bop It app was especially impressive because they added a bunch of new Bopjects to the mix that were exclusive to this app only. If someone out there is interested in somehow making a physical version of this, please do. This thing would be an absolute behemoth. There's also an arcade machine, and a special life-size version of the game with new rules made an appearance on the Family Game Night TV show. This legitimately looks like one of the most fun experiences ever, and I have no doubt that I'd completely destroy the other contestants here. Still more faithful than Bop It Bounce, by the way. If this has sounded more akin to a history lesson than a review in your eyes, you would probably be correct. However, in order for me to properly sing my praises about this series of gadgets, it's important to go through how different they can be. As a matter of fact, there's my first point. For a long while, every model was able to deliver a slightly different gameplay experience, while also sticking to the familiar style that all are used to. I can go from Bop It Extreme to Bop It Extreme 2 and get a completely different vibe from each of them. Then I can move on to XT and enjoy all of the modernizations. I can play a few rounds of Light Bop on Blast, then unleash my inner musician with Beats, then go back and train my reflexes with Smash. All while feeling like I've been playing vastly different games. It's honestly a huge shame that Hasbro has mostly given up on programming versions from the ground up and has chosen instead to divert the resources to remaking previous models and accepting brand deals for a pretty penny. There's also the challenge that comes with completing a round in its entirety, which I hinted at earlier on when discussing the very first iteration. This is arguably the most crucial aspect to the success of the series, since if the game isn't engaging, nobody's going to buy it. Again, it's ingenious how Klitzner and the team were able to take what is, at a glance, a really simple task of basically pressing a button when told to, and use the mind's tendency to overthink to turn the task into a device that can really keep the players on their toes the whole way through. It's not like these things are for show, even if the older ones are collector's items now. No, I have these because I genuinely enjoy my time using them, even when they do sometimes ruffle my non-existent metaphorical feathers. God damn it! I almost always play Bop It by myself, but I also have to give major credit to how well multiplayer is pulled off with the series. The marketing has always heavily emphasized the game as a party game first and a solo challenge second, and it's clear that this was designed with socialization in mind. Every single model, without exception, has a way to play with others, and I would really appreciate it if this stays the same going forward. A single player only Bop It is actually a novel concept, and perhaps I'd like to see it done once, but passing it is debatably what it's all about. If bringing one of these to a party became normalized in the 2020s, I would not have even the slightest of complaints. Lastly, and this goes without saying, nostalgia is powerful. XT released in 2011, and as an innocent 5-year-old gentle boy, I can, yes, I can quite easily recall loving the thing, and, I didn't like using Shake It. It didn't work properly, I think. Oh, please pardon my gaps in knowledge here. Let's move on. What I'm attempting to convey here is that whenever I pull these things out of the closet and take one for a little rendezvous, I can't prevent the thought of a simpler time before digital entertainment took over from crossing my cranium every now and then. It's almost therapeutic to actually pick up a physical game and let it immerse the mind for a little while. These days may be behind us, but it doesn't mean that we are unable to indulge in a moment of pure mental focus every now and then.
Twist it, pull it, twist it, pull it, twist it.
Wow, you beat Bop It. High score 100.
Ugh, finally! I've been trying to conquer this tiny little brat for way too long. I should really be preparing for my next lecture, shouldn't I?
Listen, I know you're on good terms with your criminal justice professor, but I don't think missing that class is going to do you any favors.
Well, I guess I was incorrect after all. You do have computational problem-solving skills at the end of the day.
Pretentious compliment, but okay. And for what it's worth, I don't think you know what that word means.
Right, I better wrap this up quickly now, shouldn't I? What does the future of Bop It hold? Well, it doesn't seem like Hasbro is going to drop the Micro Series anytime soon, seeing as they released 2 characters this year already. I'm not a big fan of this personally, but hey, you can't have it all, can you? A brand deal is a brand deal in the end. As I mentioned earlier, it would be really innovative if someone found a way to convert the app's whopping 12 objects into a physical form, but it's a far-fetched concept. Or how about an expansion of the Pro difficulty level from XT, in which the player is expected to complete a chain of 3 commands at once?
Twist it. Bop it. Go. Yes.
Let's call it Bop It combos. And while we're at it, imagine if your time could be tracked on a Bop It, and an extra incentive for playing was to be your personal best. We might be able to attract the speedrunning community if we did that. I could probably come up with even more possibilities if I weren't on such a time crunch, but those are just a few I have from a quick brainstorm. In the case that any of these do happen somehow, I expect royalties from Hasbro for creating the ideas. What? I'm a college freshman. I need every dollar I can get, you know? Don't look at me like that. I give the lineup as a whole a 10 out of 13. It would be higher than that if not for the recent lack of originality though. I guess I just wish that the re-releases could come to a halt. The 2022 Bop It Extreme was a huge disappointment since it was literally just XT in a new shell, which nobody was really asking for.
Oh, you mop boppers!
You gotta be f***ing kidding me.
The last official Bop It that was fresh was Bop It Maker in 2017. I think that we are quite due for a new one. It's not like the series has run its course either, as Klitzner proved with the Bop It button. There is still more to be done with this franchise, whether it be a new rendition of the classic format, or even a one-off fresh idea that differs from it completely, like what we were getting throughout the early 2010s. It's time to give this line of products the justice it truly deserves. Whatever happens to the series from this point on, its legacy will live on in the hearts of those who share my sentiments regarding how much of a silent revolution in brain teasers it represents. I don't know how many more variations will come after this, seeing as the hype has most definitely fallen from its former glory, but I will absolutely be here to bring the next release into my growing collection. I wouldn't discard these things for the world. Okay, maybe for a beautiful madam, but nothing else. Please do share your own experiences with these things in the comments if you so choose, as I'd be honored to hear from others about how one of my dearest hobbies has contributed to more people than just myself. To close off this video in proper fashion, I'd like to present to you every passed jingle across the franchise, minus the character models. As far as I'm aware, all of the characters use the same jingle as the normal Bop It Micro anyway. Note that a few actually don't have a jingle to speak of, but I still included their passed clips anyway. Enjoy!
Have it. Pass it. Pass it.
Pass it.
Pass it. Pass it. Pass it.
25,871 total hits.
Pass it. 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 Pass it.
And with that, I say to you all, enjoy yourselves. Now, if you excuse me, I have a 3-hour-long lecture to attend to. Oh, crud, I forgot my laptop.